He had never imagined that a short trip to California would change his life in ways he could never predict. Life back in his small town in Virginia had been tough. The days were long, filled with work and worry, and money was always scarce. He worked in a small hardware store during the day and delivered newspapers at night. Sometimes he helped his elderly neighbor with yard work, just to earn a few extra dollars. Even though he was exhausted most of the time, he always carried a quiet hope inside him that one day, life might offer something better. This summer, he had saved every penny he could, working extra hours and cutting corners wherever possible. He decided to take a short vacation to California, a place he had only seen in pictures and movies. He thought a change of scenery might help him breathe, even if only for a week. The beach called to him as a place of peace and calm, far away from the struggles of his daily life. It was sunny and bright when he arrived, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore immediately made him feel lighter than he had in months. The beach was crowded with families, friends and tourists enjoying the summer. Children were building sandcastles and seagulls circled above looking for scraps of food. He walked slowly along the shore, letting the water wash over his feet, enjoying the warmth of the sun on his skin. He felt a rare moment of freedom, as if the problems of his life had been left behind on the Virginia roads he had traveled just hours earlier. As he wandered, he noticed movement in the water that made him pause. A young woman struggling in the waves was clearly in distress. She was flailing, her arms reaching out as if begging for help, her head dipping under the water every few seconds. Most people on the beach seemed oblivious, busy with their own activities, but he could not ignore it. His heart raced as he realized she was in serious danger. Without thinking twice, he ran toward the water, kicking off his shoes and diving in. The waves were strong, pulling at him as he swam, but he focused only on her. He reached her just as another wave knocked her down, her face breaking the surface only for a moment before going under again. He grabbed her, holding her tightly and pushing against the current with every ounce of strength he had. The water was cold and the force of the waves was terrifying, but he kept going, refusing to let her go. Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was only a few minutes, he managed to pull her to the shallower water near the shore. Both of them were breathing hard, coughing up water and shaken by the intensity of the moment. He kept his arms around her, making sure she was stable before letting go. She opened her eyes slowly, looking at him with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. He gave her a small smile, feeling a strange sense of pride and relief. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, still catching her breath, her hair wet and sticking to her face. They sat there for a moment, letting the waves lap at their legs, both of them trying to recover from the shock. People on the beach had started to notice now, clapping and cheering softly. Some ran over with towels and water. A lifeguard finally arrived, but it was clear that he had saved her life before anyone else could. The young woman tried to stand, wobbling slightly, and he helped her steady herself. She wrapped herself in a towel offered by a bystander, still shivering from the cold and the adrenaline. They introduced themselves briefly. He learned her name, but for now they did not exchange anything more. He could see she was still processing what had happened. He felt a strange connection, a mix of relief and curiosity. Something about the way she looked at him made his chest tighten, though he did not fully understand why. They exchanged a few words, polite and simple, before the young woman was guided away by the lifeguard to make sure she was completely safe. He watched her go, feeling an unexpected sense of longing and wonder. The rest of his day passed in a blur. He returned to his hotel room, exhausted but unable to stop thinking about the incident. Her face kept appearing in his mind, her wide eyes, the panic in her voice, the small smile she gave him once she was safe. He wondered who she was, why she had been at that beach, and what her life was like. It was strange how a single moment could leave such a mark. He walked along the boardwalk in the evening, the beach now quiet and bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The smell of salty water mixed with the aroma of fried food from nearby stalls. Couples strolled hand in hand, families laughed together, and children played in the sand. He tried to focus on the beauty around him, but his mind kept returning to the girl he had saved. Something about the moment had changed him, making him feel more alive and aware of the fragility of life. He thought about his own life in Virginia. The endless work, the financial struggles, and the monotony seemed smaller somehow, less overwhelming compared to the intensity of saving someone from drowning. He realized that courage and action mattered more than status or money. In that brief encounter, he had done something meaningful, something that truly mattered, and it filled him with an unfamiliar sense of pride. That night, as he lay in bed, he replayed every detail of the rescue. He remembered the cold water, the strength it took to fight the waves, and the look of relief on her face. He realized that moments like these were rare, fleeting, and precious. They reminded him that life could change in an instant and sometimes in the most unexpected ways. He fell asleep thinking about her, the girl from the beach, not knowing that their paths would cross again in ways neither of them could have imagined. The next morning, he walked along the beach again, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but she was nowhere in sight. He told himself that it was probably for the best. Their encounter had been brief, a single act of bravery in a vast world. Still, he could not shake the feeling that something important had begun that day. He felt a quiet hope, a sense that life had more in store for him than he had ever imagined. For her part, the young woman returned to her life with a mix of relief and gratitude. She thought about the man who had saved her, his courage and quick thinking. She could not stop thinking about the fact that a stranger, someone she barely knew, had risked his life for her without expecting anything in return. It left her with a deep sense of admiration and curiosity. Who was he? Where did he come from? How could someone act with such selflessness? As she recovered from the shock, she shared the story with her family, casually at first, but then with more intensity as she described his bravery. Her parents listened, their faces showing a mixture of concern and fascination. They asked questions, wanting to know more about this young man who had saved their daughter, but she only knew the basics. Still, she felt a connection, a pull toward the stranger who had stepped into the water without hesitation. In Virginia, he returned to his routine, but the memory of that day lingered. It reminded him that even in a life filled with struggle, moments of heroism and courage could emerge. He felt a renewed determination to keep moving forward, to work hard, and to never lose sight of the value of kindness and bravery. He knew he had experienced something rare and unforgettable, and it quietly shaped the way he saw the world. The weeks passed, and life slowly returned to its usual rhythm for both of them. Yet an invisible thread connected their lives now, a sense of anticipation that neither fully understood. The Virginia man continued his work, saving every spare moment and dollar, while the California girl returned to her privileged world, still haunted by the memory of a stranger who had risked everything for her. Neither could have imagined that this single act of bravery would set the stage for events that would forever change both of their lives. Every time he thought about that summer day, he felt a mixture of humility and pride. He had acted on instinct, but it had created a bond he could not explain. Little did he know this was only the beginning. The encounter was small, almost fleeting, but it carried the weight of destiny. Somewhere out there, their paths were destined to cross again, and when they did, neither of them would ever be the same. After the incident on the beach, life returned to its ordinary rhythm for both of them, yet neither could forget that summer day. The young man had returned to Virginia, resuming his daily routine of long hours at the hardware store and delivering newspapers before sunrise. His life was as hard as ever, but the memory of the girl he had saved lingered in his thoughts. He found himself thinking about her in quiet moments, wondering about her life, her family, and how someone so different from him could have been in such danger. It was strange how one brief encounter could leave such a mark, yet he felt an inexplicable pull, a curiosity he could not shake. He continued to work tirelessly, motivated not just by necessity, but by a subtle desire to make a difference, to live in a way that mattered. Each evening, as he returned home exhausted, he reflected on the courage it took to step into the waves that day. It reminded him that no matter how small his own life might seem, his actions could have a real impact. He felt a quiet confidence growing within him, a sense that he could rise above the limitations of his circumstances, if only he kept trying. Meanwhile, the young woman recovered from the shock of the near-drowning incident, but the experience left her with more than just gratitude. It sparked something deeper, a recognition of the courage and selflessness that existed outside her familiar, privileged world. She could not stop thinking about the young man who had risked his life without hesitation. She told her family about him, recounting every detail with vivid emotion. The waves, the panic, the strength it had taken for him to pull her to safety. Her parents listened carefully, their expressions showing both concern and admiration. They were proud of their daughter for being safe, but also intrigued by the man who had acted with such bravery. Over the next few weeks, the young woman found herself looking for him in her daily routines, hoping for another encounter. She knew it was unlikely, but she could not ignore the feeling that their meeting had meant something important. She shared the story with friends and colleagues, always emphasizing the courage and integrity of the man who had saved her. Her life continued with its usual comforts and routines, yet the memory of him remained a quiet, persistent presence in her mind. Back in Virginia, the young man tried to push the memory of her aside, focusing on his responsibilities, but he could not deny the way the event had affected him. It reminded him that life could change in an instant, that courage and compassion were qualities worth nurturing, and that even small actions could ripple through the lives of others. He found himself more aware of the people around him, more willing to help neighbors and strangers alike. The experience had opened a small window of hope in his heart, a belief that life might hold unexpected surprises. One weekend he decided to visit a local fair. It was a small town affair, with food stalls, games, and a few rides. Families wandered through, children ran laughing, and the smell of fried treats filled the air. He walked slowly, enjoying the simple pleasure of being outside, yet his mind often drifted back to California. He imagined the waves, the sun, and the girl's face, her expression of fear and relief blending into a memory that refused to fade. He wondered if she ever thought of him, if she remembered that day as vividly as he did. In California, the young woman returned to her family's home, a large house surrounded by manicured lawns and carefully maintained gardens. Her life was comfortable, filled with tutors, lessons, and social events, yet she felt a growing emptiness she could not explain. The incident on the beach had shaken her in ways beyond the physical danger. It had shown her a side of life she rarely saw, a reality where courage and character mattered more than wealth or status. She found herself longing to understand the man who had saved her, to know who he was and why he had acted without hesitation. Her father, a successful investor, noticed the change in her demeanor. She had always been bright and confident, but now she seemed thoughtful, almost restless. One evening during dinner, he asked her about it. She told him about the young man on the beach, his bravery, and the way he had helped her without expecting anything in return. Her father listened carefully, nodding occasionally, recognizing in her story the qualities of courage, humility, and integrity that were rare even among the wealthy. Meanwhile, life in Virginia continued with its usual challenges. The young man faced financial struggles, often worrying about bills and unexpected expenses. Yet he felt a subtle shift within himself. He had faced fear and acted with courage, and it gave him a quiet confidence that nothing else in his daily life could offer. He began to dream, cautiously at first, of opportunities beyond his small town, of experiences that might broaden his horizons. The memory of California and the girl he had saved became a symbol of possibility, a reminder that life could hold surprises if he remained brave and true to himself. One day he received a letter in the mail. It was an invitation to participate in a local community event, recognizing acts of bravery. He had been nominated anonymously for his actions on the beach. Reading the letter, he felt a mix of pride and humility. He realized that his actions had not gone unnoticed, and that even small acts of courage could inspire others. The recognition was not about fame or wealth. It was about being remembered for doing what was right, for standing up when it mattered most. As he prepared to attend the event, he thought about the girl in California. He wondered if she would ever know about this recognition, if she would understand how much that moment on the beach had meant to him. He realized that their lives, though worlds apart, were connected by a single extraordinary event. The memory of her and the experience of saving her had changed him, giving him a sense of purpose and a renewed determination to face life with courage and integrity. In California, the young woman continued to reflect on the young man who had saved her. She found herself speaking about him often, sharing details with friends and family, trying to capture the essence of his bravery and character. She realized that his actions had made a lasting impact on her, showing her the power of selflessness and the importance of courage in the face of danger. She could not stop thinking about him, and a quiet hope began to grow that their paths might cross again someday. Weeks turned into months, and both of them moved through their lives carrying the memory of that day with them. The young man in Virginia continued to work hard, saving every spare moment and dollar, driven by a quiet sense of hope and purpose. The young woman in California lived amidst wealth and comfort, but she was changed in ways money could not influence. She had seen courage and integrity in action, and it left her yearning for experiences and connections beyond her privileged world. One afternoon, the young man received a message from an online forum dedicated to acts of bravery. Someone had posted about a life-saving event on a California beach, describing it in detail. He recognized the story immediately. It was about him. The post included a photograph of the girl he had saved, smiling in a way that made his heart skip a beat. He felt a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Here was a tangible connection to that day, a reminder that the bond they had formed, however brief, had left a mark not only on him but on her as well. Across the country, the young woman learned that the story of her rescue had been shared online, gaining attention for the bravery of the man who had saved her. She was pleased but also curious, wondering if he would see it and recognize the impact he had made on her life. She felt a growing sense of anticipation, a belief that life might bring them together again in ways neither of them could predict. Life continued, and the invisible thread connecting them grew stronger. The young man in Virginia focused on his work, determined to improve his circumstances, while the young woman in California remained thoughtful, reflecting on the courage and selflessness that had entered her life so unexpectedly. Both were changed quietly and profoundly by a single act of bravery. It had created a bond that neither could ignore, a connection that promised more than either could yet imagine. As the days passed, each thought about the other, wondering when or if they might meet again. The young man dreamed of California, of waves, sun, and the girl's face. The young woman thought about Virginia, about a life so different from hers and the man who had acted without hesitation to save her. Neither knew what the future held, but both sensed that this was only the beginning of something far greater, a story that had been set in motion by courage, chance, and a single moment that neither would ever forget. Several months had passed since the summer beach incident, and life seemed to be following its usual patterns for both of them. Yet fate, it seemed, had its own plans. The young man had been invited to attend a small business networking event in California. It was not a glamorous invitation, nor was it an opportunity he had sought out, but a friend of his from a previous job had sent the invitation, insisting that this might be a chance to meet influential people who could help him with his future aspirations. Though hesitant, he decided to take the trip. The chance to see California again stirred a mix of excitement and nervousness within him. He arrived in California, feeling both familiar and strange in the bustling environment. The beaches, the sun, the streets filled with life, all of it reminded him of that summer day when he had saved the young woman from drowning. Though he had not expected to see her again, a small hope flickered inside him. He reminded himself to focus on the networking event, to be professional and courteous, yet his mind inevitably wandered to the girl from the beach. He wondered where she was, what she was doing, and if she remembered him at all. Meanwhile, the young woman was attending a charity event hosted by her family, a gathering of investors, business people, and prominent social figures. She had been involved in several charitable projects, often representing her family's philanthropic efforts. That day, she arrived early to help with preparations and oversee the event. She had no expectation that her life was about to intersect with someone from her past in a surprising way. As she moved through the crowd, greeting acquaintances and discussing event details, her thoughts drifted back to the young man she had once met on the beach. She wondered if life had treated him well, if he was still working hard and living the honest, humble life she had imagined. As the young man walked into the venue for the networking event, he was struck by the grandeur of the setting. The event took place in a large hall, filled with people in business attire, engaged in conversation and exchanging ideas. He felt slightly out of place, his modest appearance contrasting sharply with the polished environment around him. Still, he reminded himself that he was there for a purpose, to learn, to grow, and perhaps to find opportunities that could help him in the future. He navigated through the crowd, introducing himself to a few people and listening carefully to conversations, trying to absorb as much knowledge as he could. Then, as if by destiny, their paths crossed. She was standing near a display table discussing a project with one of her father's associates when she suddenly noticed him walking past. Their eyes met, and in that instant, both were taken aback. Recognition flashed across her face, and for a brief moment, time seemed to slow. He stopped, unsure if he was imagining what he saw, but her expression confirmed it. She remembered him. The young man felt his heart race, a mix of surprise, excitement, and nervousness. He had not expected to see her again, not like this, not in a world so different from the beach where they had first met. Gathering his courage, he approached her. She smiled warmly, a hint of amusement and relief in her eyes. Their initial conversation was cautious, polite, and slightly awkward. They spoke about ordinary things, the weather, the event, their travels. But beneath the surface, both felt the undercurrent of a deeper connection, a bond formed from the extraordinary experience they had shared months earlier. She explained a little about her involvement in the event, without revealing too much about her family's wealth, while he spoke about his journey, his work in Virginia, and the small steps he had taken to improve his life. The young woman found herself drawn to his honesty and humility. He spoke with a quiet confidence that was different from the polished and rehearsed conversations she was accustomed to in her world. His words carried sincerity, and she was struck by the fact that despite the differences in their social status, he had a strength of character that shone through. She found herself listening intently, genuinely interested in his story, and appreciating the simplicity and authenticity that he embodied. For the young man, the encounter was equally transformative. He was aware of the disparity between their worlds, the privileges she enjoyed and the challenges he faced. But he was not intimidated. Instead, he felt a sense of pride that he could converse with her, that he could be himself without pretense. The memory of saving her life on the beach gave him a quiet confidence, a reminder that he had faced fear and acted with courage. Now he faced a different kind of challenge, navigating a world so foreign to him while remaining true to himself. As the event progressed, they found themselves spending more time together. They walked around the venue, discussing various exhibits and projects. She asked questions about his life, genuinely curious about his experiences, while he shared stories about his work, his family, and the small victories he had achieved despite his struggles. Their conversation flowed naturally, filled with laughter, shared observations, and a growing sense of mutual respect. It was as if the months apart had only deepened their connection, rather than weakened it. Her father noticed the interaction from a distance. He observed the young man carefully, assessing his demeanor, his composure, and the way he engaged with his daughter. Unlike the many wealthy or influential people she usually associated with, this young man seemed grounded, genuine, and unpretentious. Though he did not yet understand the full context of his daughter's admiration, he sensed that there was something different about this encounter. He decided to observe quietly, allowing the interaction to unfold naturally, rather than intervening prematurely. The young man, aware that he was in a world so different from his own, struggled with moments of self-doubt. He wondered if he truly belonged here, among people who had so many advantages he could only dream of. Yet the young woman's encouragement and interest in his life helped him navigate these feelings. She treated him as an equal, not with condescension, but with genuine curiosity and respect. This simple act of acceptance bolstered his confidence, allowing him to engage more fully and openly. As the evening wore on, they found a quieter corner of the hall to talk more privately. Here the conversation shifted from surface-level topics to deeper reflections. They discussed their values, their dreams, and the challenges they had faced. The young man shared stories of his hard work in Virginia, the struggles of supporting his family, and the lessons he had learned along the way. The young woman spoke about her upbringing, the pressures of her family's expectations, and her desire to find meaning beyond wealth and social status. Each listened intently, recognizing in the other a kindred spirit who valued courage, integrity, and authenticity. The atmosphere between them changed subtly. There was a sense of comfort, a feeling that they could speak openly without judgment. The young woman felt a rare connection, one that transcended social boundaries and superficial appearances. The young man, in turn, felt a growing admiration for her intelligence, empathy, and ability to see beyond external circumstances. Both sensed that this was more than a chance meeting. It was a continuation of a story that had begun months earlier on the beach. By the end of the evening, they exchanged contact information, promising to stay in touch. The young man left the event with a renewed sense of possibility, inspired by the encounter and the knowledge that connections could form in the most unexpected ways. The young woman returned home, reflecting on the meeting and the powerful reminder that courage and integrity could exist in every corner of life, regardless of social status. They both carried the memory of the evening as a bridge between their worlds, a connection that hinted at future possibilities. In the days following the event, they communicated regularly, sharing stories, ideas, and experiences. Each message strengthened their bond, deepening their understanding and appreciation of one another. They discovered common interests and values, despite the differences in their backgrounds. The young man shared insights about his work and the lessons he had learned, while the young woman offered perspectives from her experiences and the opportunities she had encountered. Through these exchanges, they began to see each other, not just as individuals, but as partners in a shared journey of growth, understanding, and exploration. The young man began to dream bigger, inspired by the possibilities that this connection opened up. He considered ways to expand his work, explore new opportunities, and perhaps one day create a life that allowed him to support his family in ways he had once only imagined. The young woman likewise began to question aspects of her own life, reflecting on the importance of authenticity, courage, and meaningful connections. Together, they nurtured a sense of hope, a belief that their meeting was not a random coincidence, but a pivotal moment that could shape their futures. As weeks passed, they began to plan small visits, exploring parts of California together and sharing experiences that bridged the gap between their worlds. They walked along the coast, visited local markets, and attended cultural events, each moment reinforcing their connection. These experiences allowed them to learn from each other, to see life from different perspectives, and to appreciate the richness of their combined experiences. The young man's humility and resilience complemented the young woman's curiosity and insight, creating a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Through it all, the memory of the beach incident remained a powerful symbol of their bond. It reminded them of the fragility of life, the importance of courage, and the unexpected ways in which connections could form. Their relationship was no longer defined by social status, wealth, or circumstance, but by shared experiences, empathy, and the recognition of character. It was a relationship grounded in authenticity, and it continued to grow stronger with each passing day, promising new adventures and opportunities that neither could have anticipated when their paths first crossed on that sunlit. As their relationship grew, the young man from Virginia found himself navigating a world that was far removed from his own experiences. California offered possibilities he had never imagined, but also challenges he had to face carefully. He was aware of the wealth and influence that surrounded the young woman, and though he admired her world, he did not want to be seen as someone merely chasing comfort or opportunity. He wanted to be respected for who he truly was, not for what he could gain. This balance was delicate, and he approached it with caution and humility. The young woman, on the other hand, was equally invested in understanding him and his perspective. She appreciated his honesty and humility, traits that were rare in the circles she usually moved in. Spending time with him opened her eyes to a simpler, more grounded way of life, and she found herself reflecting on what truly mattered. Their conversations grew deeper, filled with discussions about dreams, values, and the small victories and struggles that shaped their lives. Through these talks, both learned from each other, discovering strength and wisdom in places they had not expected. One afternoon, they decided to take a trip along the coast, away from the crowd of social events and city life. They walked hand in hand along quiet beaches, talked about their pasts, and shared hopes for the future. She listened intently as he described the hardships of life in Virginia, the long hours, the financial struggles, and the small joys that kept him going. She was moved by his resilience and the grace with which he carried himself despite difficulties. In return, he listened to her describe the pressures and expectations of her privileged life, gaining insight into challenges he had never imagined. This mutual understanding deepened their bond and reinforced the respect and admiration they had for each other. During this time, she introduced him gradually to her family. They were initially skeptical, concerned about the differences in their social and economic backgrounds. Yet as they observed his humility, respect, and genuine character, their skepticism began to fade. They saw in him a young man of integrity, someone who had proven his courage not through wealth or status but through action and character. Slowly they welcomed him into their world, appreciating the balance he brought to their lives and the way he treated their daughter with respect and kindness. The young man felt the weight of this acceptance, but also a sense of validation. He had worried that the vast differences between their lives might create barriers, but he realized that character and honesty could bridge any gap. He remained humble, mindful of his roots and careful not to lose himself in the process of adapting to this new world. His confidence grew not from wealth or privilege, but from the recognition that his actions and values were acknowledged and respected by those he admired. Romantic feelings continued to grow between them, subtle yet powerful. They shared quiet moments, laughter, and experiences that created memories neither could forget. There were times of doubt and insecurity, particularly for him, as he grappled with the differences in their social standing. Yet her encouragement, belief in him, and genuine appreciation of who he was helped him overcome these doubts. Their connection became a source of strength for both, reminding them that love could flourish when built on understanding, respect, and shared values. Their adventures extended beyond simple trips to the beach or social events. They explored small towns, hiked through scenic trails, and attended cultural and charitable events that allowed them to learn and grow together. Each experience added layers to their bond, reinforcing the idea that they were partners in navigating life's complexities. The young woman admired his practical intelligence, his work ethic, and the way he faced challenges head-on. He admired her empathy, intelligence, and the grace with which she handled responsibility. The young man also began to explore opportunities for growth in his own career. Inspired by his experiences and the encouragement of the young woman and her family, he sought ways to develop skills and pursue ventures that aligned with his values. The guidance and exposure he received opened doors he had never imagined, yet he remained grounded, determined to maintain the authenticity and integrity that had defined him from the start. The young woman's presence and support provided confidence and encouragement, helping him see possibilities that were once beyond his reach. Throughout this period, the memory of the beach incident remained a significant touchstone for both of them. It reminded them of the power of courage, selflessness, and the impact one moment could have on multiple lives. It was the foundation upon which their connection had been built, a reminder that genuine actions could transcend social and economic boundaries. Both carried this memory as a source of motivation, inspiration, and perspective, guiding their choices and reinforcing their commitment to each other. As time went on, they faced challenges not from lack of affection, but from the practical realities of life and the perceptions of others. There were moments of tension and uncertainty, particularly when navigating their different worlds and expectations. Yet they approached these challenges with open communication, mutual respect, and patience. They learned to listen, compromise, and support each other in ways that strengthened their relationship rather than undermining it. The young man's efforts in integrating into her world were met with appreciation and admiration, not just from her but from her family as well. They saw in him a blend of courage, intelligence, and humility that complemented their own experiences and values. He remained true to himself, never allowing the allure of wealth or privilege to change the core of who he was. This authenticity, combined with his growing understanding of their world, allowed him to form meaningful relationships and find his place in an environment that was once foreign to him. The young woman continued to grow alongside him, learning from his experiences and gaining new perspectives on life. She became more reflective, questioning assumptions and exploring values that mattered beyond societal expectations. Their partnership became a source of personal growth for both, a relationship built on mutual respect, understanding, and the shared journey of discovering each other's worlds. They found joy not only in romance but also in the knowledge that they were learning, evolving, and supporting one another. In the quiet moments, They often reflected on their journey, the near tragedy on the beach, the chance reunion, and the gradual building of trust and understanding. Each step they took together reinforced the idea that life's most meaningful experiences often arose from unexpected encounters and brave decisions. The young man felt grateful for the opportunities that had unfolded, recognizing that courage and integrity had led him to a place of personal and emotional growth. The young woman felt inspired by his authenticity, learning to value character over status, and understanding that meaningful connections transcended wealth and privilege. As their bond strengthened, they began to envision a future together, one where both could support and inspire each other while honoring their own values and experiences. They talked about dreams, goals, and the ways they could combine their strengths to create a life filled with purpose, compassion, and mutual growth. The young man's resilience and practical intelligence complemented the young woman's empathy and insight, creating a balanced partnership built on trust, admiration, and love. Together, they navigated social gatherings, family expectations, and the challenges of blending two very different worlds. Each interaction, each shared experience, and each obstacle they overcame reinforced their connection. They discovered that love and partnership were not about wealth, privilege, or appearances, but about understanding, respect, and shared values. Their journey was marked by authenticity, courage, and the willingness to embrace life's uncertainties while supporting each other through them. Through it all, the memory of the beach remained central, a reminder of the moment that had changed their lives and set the stage for everything that followed. It was a testament to the power of selflessness, courage, and the unexpected ways in which life could create meaningful connections. Both carried it with them, allowing it to guide their choices, strengthen their bond, and inspire them to face life together with confidence and hope. Their story was no longer just about two individuals from different worlds. It was about the transformative power of connection, courage, and the shared journey of growth and love that they had embarked upon together. The final chapter of their journey began with a quiet realization that their connection had grown deeper than either had expected. The young man from Virginia had faced challenges and obstacles, but he had emerged more confident, more aware of his strengths, and more appreciative of the value of character and courage. The young woman had learned to see beyond wealth and privilege, valuing authenticity and resilience above all else. Their bond had been shaped by a single moment on the beach, a moment of bravery and selflessness that neither would forget, and it now guided the way they navigated their lives together. As they continued to spend time together, they began to make plans for the future. The young man had been offered opportunities to expand his work and explore new ventures. Thanks to the guidance and support of the young woman and her family, he approached these opportunities with humility, determined to remain true to his roots while embracing the possibilities before him. Each step forward was a careful balance of ambition and integrity, a reflection of the lessons he had learned through his experiences. The young woman supported him every step of the way, offering advice, encouragement, and insights from her own life. She admired his perseverance and ingenuity, and she saw in him the potential to achieve great things without losing sight of what truly mattered. Their partnership was strengthened by mutual respect, trust, and a shared commitment to personal growth. They celebrated each small success together, recognizing that progress was not only about financial or social gains, but about becoming better versions of themselves. They also spent time deepening their personal connection, enjoying the simple pleasures of life that had become rare in their busy worlds. They walked along quiet beaches, watched sunsets, shared home-cooked meals, and talked late into the night. These moments allowed them to appreciate each other beyond appearances or status, focusing instead on the qualities that had drawn them together in the first place: courage, kindness, and authenticity. The young man found joy in the small routines and gestures, while the young woman felt a sense of grounding and peace she had rarely experienced before. Challenges continued to arise, as they inevitably would when blending two very different lives. There were moments of tension when expectations clashed, or when external pressures threatened to intrude. Yet they approached these challenges with honesty and open communication. They learned to navigate misunderstandings, manage disagreements, and support each other during times of stress. Their relationship grew stronger through these experiences, as they realized that love and partnership were not about avoiding difficulties, but about facing them together. One particularly significant Moment came when the young woman invited him to attend a family gathering at their estate. It was a formal event, filled with influential guests, but he faced it with quiet confidence, prepared to engage respectfully and authentically. He was initially nervous, aware of the stark contrast between his background and that of the guests, yet he approached each interaction with sincerity and humility. He shared stories of his life, his struggles, and his achievements in a way that resonated with the guests, who came to admire his character and perseverance. Her family, who had observed him carefully over time, recognized that he was not only brave and intelligent but also genuinely kind and humble. Their initial skepticism had transformed into admiration and acceptance. They saw that his influence on their daughter had been positive, inspiring her to grow and reflect on her own values. In turn, the young man felt gratitude for their acceptance, not for the sake of status, but because it symbolized the recognition of his efforts and the respect for who he truly was. The young couple began to discuss long-term plans, exploring ways to combine their strengths and values to create a meaningful life together. They considered joint projects that aligned with their shared vision, ventures that could make a difference in the community while reflecting their principles. These discussions were filled with excitement, optimism, and careful consideration. They knew that success was not only about personal gain, but also about the positive impact they could have on others. Throughout these experiences, the memory of the beach incident remained a guiding force. It was a reminder of the courage and selflessness that had initially brought them together, a symbol of the strength and authenticity that would continue to shape their relationship. They reflected often on that moment, recognizing its significance not only as the catalyst for their connection, but also as a lesson in the importance of acting with integrity and compassion. As their relationship matured, they also considered the ways they could give back, inspired by the lessons they had learned from each other. They became involved in charitable initiatives, mentoring programs, and community projects that emphasized empowerment, education, and opportunity. Together, they worked to create a positive influence on those around them, using their experiences and resources to uplift and inspire others. This shared purpose deepened their bond, reinforcing the idea that love and partnership could extend beyond personal fulfillment to create meaningful change in the world. Romance blossomed naturally, without the need for grand gestures or superficial displays. Their connection was rooted in mutual respect, admiration, and a deep understanding of each other's values and experiences. They shared quiet moments of affection, heartfelt conversations, and laughter, creating memories that would last a lifetime. The young man found joy in the way she listened, encouraged and believed in him, while the young woman cherished his honesty, courage, and unwavering support. As time passed, their love story became an example of how two individuals from very different worlds could find common ground through integrity, courage, and empathy. Their journey illustrated that social status, wealth, and privilege were secondary to character, values, and the willingness to act with selflessness and bravery. They had discovered that true connection was built not on external circumstances but on the depth of understanding and the strength of shared principles. Eventually, they began to make long-term commitments to each other, discussing plans for a shared future that balanced their individual goals and aspirations with their collective vision. They embraced the challenges that came with merging their lives, confident in their ability to face obstacles together. Their story, which began with a single act of bravery on a summer beach, had evolved into a partnership grounded in trust, love, and a shared commitment to personal and social growth. In the final moments of their journey, they reflected on the serendipity that had brought them together. The young man remembered the fear and determination of the day he had saved her from drowning, while the young woman recalled the relief and gratitude that had flooded her heart in that moment. Both recognized that this shared experience had set in motion a chain of events that had transformed their lives in profound ways. It was a reminder that courage, kindness, and integrity could create lasting impact, changing the course of lives and forging connections that transcended social, economic, and cultural barriers. Their story concluded with a sense of fulfillment and hope. They had navigated differences, embraced challenges, and nurtured a relationship that was authentic, meaningful, and deeply rooted in shared values. The young man from Virginia had grown into a confident, resilient individual capable of facing new opportunities, While the young woman from California had gained a profound understanding of courage, humility, and the true nature of meaningful connection, together they had built a life that honored their pasts, embraced the present, and looked forward to a future filled with shared dreams, purpose, and enduring love. The tale of their journey served as a testament to the power of a single brave act, a reminder that life could change in an instant, and that genuine character could bridge the widest of gaps. From a crowded beach in California to the possibilities of a shared future, they had discovered that authenticity, courage, and compassion could create extraordinary bonds and transform ordinary lives into something remarkable and unforgettable.